All right, I'm back. Sound wasn't impossible on that last one, so we'll give this a go. A lot of sea noise, but you can live through that, right? I don't know. I don't even know if it's using the microphone in this AirPod thing or not. Who cares? I am so fucking furious with the Jews. I'm furious with the Jews because the Muslims are just doing what they're programmed to do. They're automatons, they're bots, they're I wouldn't even call them, they're not artificial and they're not intelligent. They're just following a plan laid down 1400 years ago by a guy called Muhammad. He wrote it all in books and in the stories of his life, the biography of the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran and Hadith and Sunnah and all of this shit. And the justification for what they did is absolutely all there in black and white if you know how to read it and if you avoid the apologists. So when they are unleashed, when they are created, when they are built up into an army of Muhammads, they will do what they did. No, I'm fucking furious at the Jews because what did we do? 75 years ago, we had something that's apparently only happened about 3% of the time that Jews have been on the planet. We regained sovereignty over ourselves. We grabbed the only piece of land that means anything to Judaism, the only bit of the earth upon which Judaism came from, and the only bit of the earth upon which actual meaning exists in the soil and the air and the fruit and the trees and everything around us. That's Israel. There is no other group of people still existing on the earth in the kind of numbers that we have that calls this place home and has always called this place home and has no other home. There are a few other little indigenous sort of outcroppings here, most of whom date from after Judaism. I'm talking about Samaritans and Druze and some others. Fine people, many of them. But Muslim, Islam, Arab, Arabia is not from here. So when we took this place back in 1948 and we finished fighting in 1949 and we wound up with a little bits of cut up land that was a little tiny bit of what the UN would allow us to have. Instead of saying one day we'll take the whole fucking lot, including Jordan, no, we kind of sat back and said, oh, well, you know, we've got something. We don't really have all of Jerusalem. We can't use the bits of Jerusalem we've got because Jordanians will shoot us. But we're Jews, we're home. And then comes 67 and they look like they're lining up to attack us. So we blow their fucking air forces on the ground. We fight back. We scream at the Jordanians not to join the war. What do? They shell Netanya from the hills that are above it. Netanya on the coast, right in the middle, right on the coastal plain. So we fight back again and we win. We kick them out of Jordan and we kick them out of Sinai and we take Gaza and we have a big fucking chunk of territory that's fucking ours, and it was always ours and it should always have been ours. And then what do? We Jews apply our morality and our softened Western view of the world, infused with the disaster, I'm sorry Christians, but the disaster of modern Christianity. We allow that to dictate our actions for the next few years, and we start coming up with this idea that we can never have peace with Islam and jihad. What a catastrophe that is. There is no peace with Islam. There is no peace with jihad. You don't make peace with it, ever. The deceit process, as I call it, that waged here, that was our undoing. Everything we did in pursuit of the deceit process. It's led us to this point where I only hope we can survive. I only hope that there's been a civilizational level shift in the consciousness of Israelis. I don't care about the Jews in the diaspora. You'll die out. You will be gone. You will flee. You will come here. You'll go to wherever you can find to be safe. But you won't be safe in any European country because those countries are overrun by jihad. And jihad might not always profess itself at first, but it always will come. And jihad will always try to kill Jews, because Jews, especially Jews living in Israel, they prove that the Quran is a lie, that they totally undermine the entire premise of Islam. Christians do this to a smaller degree. That's why in the Islamic call to prayer, they curse 17 times a day. They curse those who have gone astray. That's Jews. We've gone astray from Islam. And they curse those who have been led astray. That's you Christians. You've been led astray. That's why you're slightly lower on the death list than Jews. Top of the list actually is apostates, ex-Muslims, people who declare themselves to have left Islam. They're number one on the death list. Jews are number two. Christians are number three. Oh, actually no. All non-peoples of the book, they're up there with ex-Muslims. Sorry, I forgot. India, Hindus, all idolaters. Yeah, they're really, and that's why India kind of has a collective consciousness that understands Israel to a greater degree, because they fought jihad for centuries, many centuries. Now, into the background of this is something else I've studied, which is the civilizational, the rise and fall of civilizations. There's a book called Biohistory. Only me and one other guy who runs the account Fort Culture, Dan, seem to know about this stuff, but we are in a civilizational collapse. America is collapsing civilizationally because, you know, they're arguing over which fucking gender goes into the bathroom. You couldn't make a more... You couldn't watch a civilization in decline and see a better example than that. But Israel was the same. We were arguing over nonsense and judges and crap like this when we completely let our guard down. So my anger is directed at my fellow Jews. First and foremost, the most ardent of the peacemakers. You did this. You created the conditions under which the Muslims would do what they always wanted to do, which is murder, slaughter, rape, all the other stuff that we know about. You created the conditions that allowed that to happen. I don't expect a predator to do anything other than eat its prey. What you have to do if you're being a good farmer is not let the predators get at the prey. And unfortunately, us Jews, we made two civilizationally ending errors. And I don't know if we'll get back from it. I hope we will. One was to argue amongst ourselves, which seems to be the way that Jewish sovereignty has always ended. We argued over which bit of the land I'm walking on we were really allowed to live on. This bit or the one 20 kilometers that way up in a hill. We've been arguing about this since 1949. What is ours? What can we live on or what can't we live on? And do you know what the non-Jews and the Muslims heard? You can't live anywhere. And that's the collective consciousness of the world now. They believe we shouldn't be living anywhere. And you know, all this fucking around on Twitter or X and TikTok and all of these other places, of course the numbers are against us. You've got a 2 billion Muslim army leading a civilizationally collapsing West who can't tell right from wrong. The only hope we have is the very strongest elements of Christianity and Christian tradition. They can, to a certain extent, if we can be on their side, they can help. But what else have the fucking left-wing Jews and the stupid peacemakers been doing for the last 50 years? They've been spurning the aid of so many good people. They've been running around saying everybody's got to be multicultural and refugees are good. Fuck off. Islamic immigration was laid again. It's laid down in the Quran. It's al-Hijra, it's called. It's Islamic immigration for the purpose of founding an Islamic state. That's what Europe has suffered. America to a lesser degree, but go look at Dearborn, Michigan. That is al-Hijra. In fact, the entire Islamic date system, it doesn't date from Christianity dates from the year Jesus was born. Jewish date system dates from the creation. The Islamic year zero is the point at which Muhammad stopped being somewhat kind of trying to be a bit peaceful and started being a marauding warlord, and he led his army to take back what he said was his. He started a war and he moved his armies to take by force what was not his. That is the year zero of Islam. And that's what Islam has done ever since it was created. So no, I'm not surprised. They did exactly what they're programmed to do. And the horror is that Jews didn't ever bother to learn this stuff and didn't ever bother to protect our country strongly enough against it for all time. Because that's what it will take. We will always be facing jihad because the chances of 13 or 14 million Jews leading a war that annihilates Islam is relatively impossible. So we're going to face it forever. Every time we drop our guard, they'll murder, rape and kill us. Every time. All right. On another note, it's Friday. Have a good Shabbat, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. I'll post this later on FreeSpeak and Hive, because those are still my preferred places to put this kind of content. Thanks for listening.